I thought I was a good boyfriend, until her trauma started to destroy both of us. We met at a friend's birthday party. One of those overly lit backyard things where everyone knows everyone a little too well and nobody wants to be the first to leave. I was halfway through a beer when she walked in wearing a leather jacket and Doc Martens, and I remember thinking, she doesn't belong here. Which made her immediately interesting to me. Her name was Lisa. She was sharp in that quick, dry humor way that always makes you feel like you're 2 beats behind. I'm more laid back, not dumb, just not in a hurry to win every conversation. We clicked in a weirdly calm way. No fireworks. Just a natural sort of flow. We started dating a few weeks after that night. Things moved pretty fast. We were practically living together 6 months in, officially cohabiting by month 10. It was the kind of relationship that felt real because it was messy in the right ways. Fights over dishes, who forgot the rent reminder, me leaving my socks everywhere. But it was ours. By the time we hit our 1-year anniversary, I was starting to imagine a future with her. Not in a cheesy, rom-com way. Just quietly, like, yeah, I think I could do this forever. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Saturday. I was supposed to go with her to her office party, some corporate mixer thing for her department. But I'd pulled a double at work and was dead on my feet. She told me not to worry, she'd go solo. It's just drinks and small talk, she said. No big deal. I remember kissing her on the forehead before she left. She wore a black top I hadn't seen before. Said she borrowed it from a friend. She looked amazing, but tired. I asked if she was sure she wanted to go. She said, if I don't show up, they'll talk. She got back late. Around 2:30 a.m. I was half asleep but woke up when I heard the front door. I called out, "You good?" And she said, "Yeah, just tired." She came into the bedroom fully dressed, sat on the edge of the bed for a second, then went to shower. Long shower. Like, 20 minutes. When she finally crawled into bed, she curled up away from me. I put my arm around her, and she flinched. Just slightly. Enough for me to notice. I didn't ask anything then. I figured she was just drunk, or overwhelmed, or maybe she'd had an argument with a coworker. The next morning, she didn't say much. We had coffee in silence, then she said she was going to her sister's for the day. Just like that. That night she told me what happened. Or, I guess, what I thought happened. She said one of her coworkers offered to walk her to her car. They'd had a couple drinks, he seemed harmless, then somehow things turned. She said he pushed her into the back seat and didn't stop even when she said no. She cried as she told me. Said she hadn't gone to the police because she didn't want to make it worse. I just sat there. Completely frozen. You grow up thinking if someone you love gets hurt, you'll become this superhero version of yourself, full of rage, purpose, whatever. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. Not just for her, but for me, for us. Something massive had just entered our world, and I had no idea what the hell to do with it. I told her I was there for her. That we'd figure it out. I held her while she cried and kept my voice steady. She fell asleep in my arms and I stared at the ceiling all night. The next few weeks were a blur. She called in sick a lot. Barely got out of bed some days. I cooked, cleaned, handled her emails. I read articles about supporting assault survivors. Joined a subreddit. Tried to educate myself. But nothing I did felt right. She didn't want to talk. She didn't want to be touched. And every time I looked at her, I could see it, something broken behind her eyes that wasn't there before. Something I couldn't reach. People say trauma changes people. What they don't say is that it changes the people around them too. I was starting to feel like a ghost in my own apartment. I couldn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? My girlfriend was raped and now I don't know how to be around her? Who the hell do you talk to about that? Every part of me wanted to be strong. But under that was something else. A quiet panic. Like I'd just boarded a train that had no brakes and no stops and I wasn't sure I wanted to be on it. I didn't know it then, but this was the beginning of the end. Not because I didn't love her. Not because she wasn't worth loving. But because some cracks, once they form, don't go away. They just grow, silently, while you're too scared to look directly at them. And I was very, very scared. The thing about pretending you're okay is that it starts to stick. You keep saying the same sentences, whatever you need, I'm here for you, take your time, and eventually, you start believing them. Or at least, you stop hearing how empty they sound. Because what else are you supposed to say? There's no script for this. No one trains you on how to be the boyfriend of someone who's been through that. The first few days after Lisa told me, I was in some weird version of crisis autopilot. I cleaned the whole apartment. Bought her favorite snacks. Set reminders on my phone to check in, to ask if she wanted tea, to refill her water bottle. I downloaded a bunch of articles on trauma recovery and how to support a partner. I read them all in one night. I thought I was helping. She barely spoke. Mostly just sat on the couch, knees tucked to her chest, staring at her phone or the window. Sometimes she'd mutter something like, "I don't want to talk," or "Can we not do this right now?" But mostly it was silence. I started to treat the apartment like a hospital room, soft voice, slow steps, no sudden movements. I didn't touch her unless she initiated it, which she didn't. I tried not to take it personally. One afternoon I suggested going for a walk. Just a block or two. I even picked a time when I knew the neighborhood would be quiet. She looked at me like I'd asked her to jump into traffic. "I don't want to see anyone," she said, then turned back to her phone. I said okay. I always said okay. After a while, I stopped suggesting things. I started cooking dinner every night. I'd leave a plate for her, and most nights she didn't touch it until hours later, if at all. Sometimes I found it in the trash the next morning, untouched. I never said anything. Just cleaned up and kept going. That became our rhythm, me trying, her not reacting, both of us pretending that was enough. Then one night, I had a panic attack. It hit out of nowhere. I was in the kitchen, staring into the fridge like I was searching for something, anything, to feel normal. Suddenly my chest tightened, my heart started pounding, and I felt like the room was shrinking. I dropped to the floor and just sat there, my back against the cabinets, counting my breaths like some YouTube video told me once. I didn't want to wake her. I didn't want to explain. That's when it hit me, I hadn't told anyone. Not one person. I was carrying this huge, heavy thing around, like a secret, and it was eating me alive. The next day, I texted Darren, my best friend. "Hey! Can we talk? Need to get something off my chest." He came over that afternoon. I gave him the basic version. Something happened to Lisa, she was struggling, I was trying to be there for her. I didn't say rape. I didn't say the word. It felt too sharp to say out loud. He listened, which was good. He's not always great with feelings, but he tried. Then he said, "You're doing the right thing, man." Most guys would have bailed. I nodded, but inside I felt sick. Because the truth was, the thought had crossed my mind. Late at night, in those moments when she wouldn't even look at me, when I felt like a stranger in my own home, I think, what if I just left? I hated myself for even thinking it. After that, I stopped telling people anything. I didn't want their approval or their pity or their surface-level praise. I wanted someone to say, "This is hard. You're allowed to feel lost." But nobody says that. Everyone just tells you to be strong. Be patient. Be supportive. Like you're a robot programmed to endure. Lisa started sleeping in the other room about 3 weeks in. She said it wasn't about me, she just needed space. I told her I understood. And I did, intellectually. But emotionally? It was like being evicted from your own life. The distance kept growing. We'd pass each other in the hallway like awkward roommates. Meals were eaten separately. She stopped watching shows with me. Stopped laughing at my dumb jokes. Stopped asking about my day. Eventually, I stopped offering. Sex was, obviously, off the table. That part one accepted without question. But intimacy in any form vanished too. No hand-holding. No hugs. No laying on the couch together. Even our conversation shrank from full sentences to clipped logistical exchanges. "Can you pick up toilet paper? Did you pay rent? There's mail for you." One night, I tried to break the pattern. I bought her favorite takeout and some cheap wine. I wasn't trying to push anything, just wanted to have a night that felt semi-normal. She sat across from me at the table, barely touched the food. I poured her a glass. She took one sip and pushed it away. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "You don't have to do all this, you know." I asked, "Do what?" "This, pretending everything's fine. You don't owe me anything." It hit me like a slap. I wanted to say 100 things, that I loved her, that I was here, that I wasn't pretending, but none of it came out. I just nodded and started cleaning up. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and wrote in my notes app. Things I couldn't say out loud. I miss her so much it feels like a death. I feel invisible. I want to scream but I don't know at who. I scrolled Reddit looking for people in the same boat. Forums. Anonymous posts. I read for hours. Everyone said the same thing, just be there. But what if being there feels like erasing yourself? What if your presence stops mattering? Some nights I thought about packing a bag. Just a weekend away. Just to breathe. But I knew how that would look. How it would feel to her. So I stayed. I kept staying. She never asked how I was doing. Not once. And I never told her. Because I was afraid that if I opened that door, even a little, everything would fall apart. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. There's a moment in every relationship where the balance shifts, and you realize you're the only one trying. It doesn't come like a lightning bolt or some big fight. It creeps in. Quiet. Methodical. Like a slow leak in your ceiling that only reveals itself once the plaster caves in. That moment for me came when I overheard Lisa laughing on the phone. She was in the other room, door cracked open, talking to her sister. Just chatting. Casual stuff, something about a new show, an inside joke, someone they both knew getting engaged. I stood in the hallway for a solid minute, listening like a creep. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I couldn't remember the last time I heard her laugh. And I'd done everything to try and make her laugh. When she noticed me standing there, the light went out of her face. Like a curtain dropping. She said a quick "I'll call you back," and closed the door. That night, I couldn't sleep. My brain kept looping the sound of her laugh. Not because I was angry she could be happy, but because that version of her didn't exist with me anymore. I wasn't even sure if I'd driven her away or if I'd just stopped being someone she could feel safe around. I tried to bring it up gently the next morning. "Hey," I said while making coffee. "You sounded like you were in a better mood last night." It was nice to hear. She barely looked up. Just said, "Yeah, I guess. Talking helps sometimes." I waited, hoping she'd say more. She didn't. It hit me then, she still had people. Her sister. Maybe a couple close friends. Me? I had no one. Not really. I couldn't talk to Darren again. That one conversation, it felt weird and surface level. I couldn't bring it up with my parents without getting the whole marriage is hard work sermon. So I kept it all in. Until I didn't. One Friday night, I went to a small get-together at my coworker Ryan's place. Just guys, poker, pizza, cheap beer. I hadn't been out in over a month. Lisa said she was fine with it. "Go," she told me. "You need a break." At some point between hands, someone joked about relationship PTSD, one of those dumb, insensitive comments people make when they're tipsy and trying to bond. And I snapped. I didn't yell or anything, but I said, "Try living with someone who actually has it." The table got quiet. Real quiet. Ryan, trying to lighten the mood, said, "Damn, man. That bad, huh?" I hesitated. But I was drunk enough, tired enough, numb enough to say it. She was assaulted last month. She's been a different person since. I don't even know if we're still in a relationship or just roommates. The words hung in the air like smoke. I didn't mean to say that much. But once I started, I couldn't stop. I'm trying to be supportive. I really am. But it's like, she doesn't want me there. And I can't even be honest about how that feels without sounding like a complete asshole. Nobody said anything for a second. Then one guy, Mike, said, "Dude, are you seriously complaining right now? She got raped." Another chimed in, "What do you expect? That she's gonna bounce back and thank you for staying?" It wasn't aggressive. Just cold. Final. I laughed. A short, bitter noise. Yeah. I guess I expected too much. I left early. Walked home even though it was raining. Got soaked. Didn't care. When I got home, Lisa was asleep. I stood in the doorway of her room for a second, watching her. Wondering what she'd think if she knew what I said. Or maybe she wouldn't be surprised at all. The next day, I got a text from Ryan. "Hey. Look, what you said last night, just be careful, okay? People talk." That was it. No follow-up. No offer to talk. Just a warning. I deleted the message and didn't respond. That's when I realized something I hadn't been able to admit before. I wasn't just alone. I was wrong. At least in everyone else's eyes. There was no space in this narrative for me to struggle. If I had feelings, they were selfish. If I was confused or scared or overwhelmed, I was being insensitive. And I get it, I do. What happened to Lisa was awful. Unimaginable. But does that mean my experience stopped mattering the second it happened? I started keeping a list in my notes app. Not of what she did, never that, but of what I couldn't say out loud. I don't know if I love her anymore or if I'm just afraid to leave. I feel more alone sleeping next to her than I ever did single. Every time she flinches when I enter the room, I feel like a monster. I didn't want to feel these things. But pretending I didn't was making me someone I didn't recognize. I was irritable. Quiet. Moody at work. My boss asked if I was okay, and I almost said my relationship is eating me alive, but instead I said just tired. Lisa didn't ask. Not once. Then, one afternoon, she asked me to pick up a prescription for her. I said of course. I always said of course. But the pharmacy was backed up and I had to wait almost an hour. I came home frustrated, wet from the rain, and dumped the bag a little too hard on the counter. She looked at me, startled. You okay? Something in her voice made me snap. Not yelling, just quiet, hard honesty. No. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for weeks. She froze. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know, I said. Maybe that I feel like I don't even exist in this relationship anymore. Her expression shifted. Defensive. Cold. You think this is hard for you? I sighed. That's not what I'm saying. I need to feel like I still matter. That I'm still in this with you. But it's like you don't even see me. She didn't say anything. Just turned and walked into her room. Closed the door. I stood there in the kitchen, dripping rainwater on the tile, wondering how much longer I could do this. How much more I was allowed to feel before I officially became the asshole who left her after she was raped. I didn't want to leave. I wanted her back. The her that laughed and teased me about how I loaded the dishwasher wrong, and curled up next to me with her freezing feet under my legs. But I couldn't see that person anymore. And I wasn't sure if she'd ever come back. There's a strange kind of calm that comes when you finally stop pretending. Like the seconds right after a car crash, everything is still, suspended, even though the damage is already done. That's how it felt the night I told Lisa the truth. Not the truth. Not all of it. Just the part one thought might save us. It had been building for weeks. Our conversations had shriveled down to calendar logistics and grocery lists. Her therapy sessions had started, but I wasn't allowed to ask about them. She said talking about it drained her. I respected that. But the silence between us grew into something thick and permanent, like fog that never lifted. The only thing we still did together was exist in the same space. One Wednesday night, around 10 p.m., I came home from work late. She was on the couch scrolling through her phone, TV playing something she wasn't watching. I sat in the armchair, set my keys down, and said, "Can we talk?" She didn't look up. About what? I don't know, I said. Us. She sighed. Not loudly, but with that specific tone that says this again. Still, I pressed on. I feel like I'm living with a stranger. She stared at her phone. You think I don't? That threw me for a second. I'm trying, Lisa. I've been trying. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were tired, but not sad. Just flat. Trying how? By tiptoeing around me? By being quiet? That's not effort, Alex. That's avoidance. I blinked. I haven't avoided anything. I've done everything you asked. Gave you space. Took care of the apartment. Paid the rent when you couldn't. I've been a martyr, she cut in. You want a fucking medal for staying? I felt heat rise in my face. No. I don't want a medal. I just want to feel like I'm in a relationship, not in some kind of long-term hostage negotiation. Her eyes narrowed. Wow. I didn't mean it like that. But you said it. Silence. I stood up, pacing a little. My hands were shaking, just slightly. I'm drowning here, Lisa. I'm walking on eggshells every day. I feel like I don't exist to you anymore. And every time I try to bring it up, you shut down. I was raped, Alex, she said, her voice suddenly cold. I'm sorry if that's inconvenient for your emotional needs. I stopped pacing. That line, delivered so flatly, landed like a punch. I didn't answer right away. I sat back down, slower this time. That's not what I'm saying. And you know it. She stood now, pacing like I had. Her voice climbed just enough to carry anger. You want to feel seen? Validated? What about me? You get to choose when you engage. I don't get that luxury. I wake up with this in my body every single day. I nodded. I know. And I'm not comparing. I can't keep doing this. Like we're roommates who used to love each other. She turned sharply. Then go. I froze. What? Go. If you're that miserable. No one's forcing you to stay. I stood again, heart pounding. You really want me to leave? I don't want anything, she snapped. I stopped wanting things a while ago. We stared at each other for a long time. I tried to find something to say that wouldn't make it worse. But everything I came up with felt like a trap. Too soft and I'd be patronizing. Too honest and I'd be cruel. So I just said, okay. And I walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind me. The next morning, she was gone. She hadn't packed a bag or left a note. Just vanished sometime in the night. I texted her. No reply. Called once. Straight to voicemail. By noon, I got a message from a mutual friend. Hey. Just a heads up. Lisa's staying at Sarah's. She needs space. Don't contact her. It was cold. Clinical. Like I was a threat. Then came the ripple. One by one, people we both knew started pulling away. No texts. No invites. A couple even unfollowed me on social. I checked Lisa's Instagram, nothing public, but her best friend posted something in her story, a screenshot of a tweet that said, "Survivors owe you nothing." I wasn't tagged, but it didn't matter. I was that guy now. At work, I got pulled into HR. Apparently, a few comments I'd made weeks ago were concerning. I knew what that meant. Someone had told them. Maybe out of context. Maybe not. Either way, I was given the option to take some personal time, unpaid leave to focus on wellness. I took it. I sat at home alone, trying to figure out where it had all gone wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything that night. Maybe I should have just kept swallowing it, playing the supportive role until she healed enough to come back. But would that have ever happened? I kept thinking about what she said, "You want a medal for staying?" And honestly, I didn't. I just wanted someone to notice that I stayed. That I tried. That even when I was breaking, I didn't run. But that's not how it works. Not in real life. There's no prize for endurance. No empathy for the guy who couldn't save the relationship because he still had feelings of his own. Lisa didn't come back that week. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't wait for her. It was exactly 9 days after she left when I got the message. Just a plain text. No preamble. No emoji. Just, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a while. Thought about ignoring it. Thought about saying something bitter or sarcastic. Instead, I just typed back. Sure. She asked to meet at a little park near our old apartment. Neutral ground. I got there first. It was cold, overcast, and a little windy. No one else was around. She showed up wearing that same black jacket she wore the night of the office party. The one she said she borrowed from a friend. We didn't hug. Didn't even nod. She sat down on the bench across from me, pulled her sleeves over her hands, and said, "There's something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. She didn't look nervous. Just tired. Resigned. That night, she began, when I said I was assaulted. I didn't move. Didn't speak. She stared straight ahead. It wasn't true. There was a long silence. I could hear wind moving through the trees, a dog barking faintly in the distance. Everything else stopped. I was with someone, she continued. A guy from work. I went back to his place. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Still, I said nothing. I felt so sick afterward. Guilty. Disgusted. I didn't know what to do. I thought you'd leave me. And then I panicked. I told you something else. I blinked slowly. My hands were clenched together so tightly they ached. Why rape? I asked finally. My voice came out lower than I expected. Why that? She flinched a little. Because it was the only explanation I thought you wouldn't question. We sat there in that awful stillness. Me trying to wrap my head around what she just said. Her sitting in the truth like it was a weighted blanket. I know you hate me, she said quietly. I didn't answer. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. There were 1,000 things I could have said. 1,000 questions I could have asked. But all I could think about was that moment in our kitchen, the night she told me. Her crying, me holding her, telling her I'd protect her no matter what. And all of it was built on a lie. You weaponized trauma, I finally said. You used something real and horrible to cover for something selfish. She nodded. No argument. No defense. I was drowning, she said. I didn't know what else to do. And so you dragged me under with you. Silence again. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, like I'd just run too far. I looked at her, really looked at this person I thought I knew, this person I'd given everything to, held together with both hands for months. You didn't just lie, I said. You made me the villain in a story that never existed. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded once. Not in forgiveness, just acknowledgement. And then I walked away. Back home, I sat on the floor of my empty living room for a long time. No music. No distractions. Just me and the sound of nothing. I thought about everything, the nights I held her, the dinners she ignored, the fights I swallowed, the friends I lost, the job I nearly tanked. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my notes. All the things I'd written but never said. Every line of pain, of doubt, of guilt. They didn't mean what I thought they meant anymore. They weren't about supporting someone through trauma. They were about surviving a lie. I didn't tell anyone. Not Darren, not my parents, not the guys at work. I didn't need to. The only person who needed to know already did. A few days later, I packed the rest of my things and signed a lease on a new apartment. Somewhere farther away. Smaller. Quieter. I don't feel triumphant. Or free. Or even angry, if I'm being honest. Mostly, I feel like I finally stepped out of a fog I didn't know I was in. And I have no idea what comes next. But at least now, whatever it is, it'll be real.